He had made generals beg. He had made billionaires weep. But the moment a 7-year-old African girl stepped between him and her mother and said, "Try it," Han Seo forgot every threat he had ever made. Alozie did not move to Seoul chasing a dream. She moved because staying in Lagos would have killed her. Not dramatically, not with a bang, but slowly, quietly, the way poverty kills women who refuse to break. She had buried her mother with borrowed money, paid back every coin, packed 2 bags, and crossed the world with her daughter strapped to her back, and exactly one contact. A cousin who lasted 3 weeks before disappearing into Seoul's vastness without a forwarding address. That was 4 years ago. Now she ran a small African food stall in the corner of Mangwon Market. Jollof rice, pepper soup, fried plantain, tucked between a noodle shop and a fabric vendor who played old trot music too loud every morning. The Koreans had been skeptical at first. Then they tasted the food. Now there was a line by noon every single day. Alozie was not soft. She had a voice that carried, a laugh that turned heads, and a way of looking at people that made them feel both seen and mildly afraid. She wore her braids pinned up when she cooked and let them down when she was done. And her daughter Zara, 7 years old, serious-faced, round glasses, sat on a stool behind the stall every afternoon doing homework, like a small professor who had been assigned to supervise the market. Zara did not play with the other children, not because she was unfriendly, because she was watching, always watching, filing things, building a mental map of every face, every pattern, everything that didn't fit. That afternoon, something didn't fit. 3 black vehicles, too clean, too quiet for Mangwon, eased into the market lane and stopped. Vendors noticed. Conversations dropped. The trot music from next door faded mid-song, and from the center vehicle, Han Seo stepped out. He didn't need to announce himself. The market did it for him. In the way bodies shifted, in the way eyes dropped, in the way even the fruit seller 3 stalls down suddenly became very focused on arranging mangoes. Han Seo walked like a man who had never once in his life wondered whether he was allowed to be somewhere. Zara looked up from her homework. She studied him the way she studied everything, slow, quiet, thorough. Then she looked at her mother. Alozie's jaw had tightened by exactly 1 degree. Zara caught it. She always caught it. She set her pencil down. Han Seo didn't come for Alozie specifically. He came because Mangwon Market sat on land his organization had been quietly acquiring for 8 months, stall by stall, landlord by landlord. And one vendor had refused every offer. 3 times, in writing, with a lawyer's signature. That vendor was Alozie. He stopped in front of stall 7, read the hand-painted sign, Alozie's Kitchen, Real African Fire. Something moved, across his face. Not amusement, not quite contempt, something colder. "You're the one who kept sending my contracts back," he said. Alozie didn't flinch. She wiped her hands on her apron and looked at him the way she looked at customers who tried to negotiate after the food was already in their mouth. "Your contracts had bad terms," she said. "I sent them back with corrections. Nobody responded." One of Han Seo's men actually looked at the ground. "I'm not here to negotiate," Han Seo said. His voice was quiet, that particular quiet that men like him weaponize. "I'm here to tell you personally, you have 2 weeks. After that, this stall doesn't exist." The market had gone completely still. Alozie looked at him for a long moment. Then she said very calmly, "This stall is my daughter's future. So with respect, no." Han Seo tilted his head. "No? No." He leaned forward slightly. "Do you know what happens to people who tell me no in this city?" And that was the moment. Zara stood up. She climbed off her stool, walked around the counter, and positioned herself directly between Han Seo and her mother. All 4 feet of her, round glasses, pencil still in her hand, homework smudge on her cheek. She looked up at Han Seo with the stillness of someone twice his age. "Try it," she said. The word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Han Seo looked down at this child. This small, absolute, completely serious child, man who had just called his bluff in front of his entire crew without blinking once. His jaw tightened. Zara didn't move. Han Seo had two rules he never broke. He didn't threaten children, and he didn't let anyone embarrass him publicly. A 7-year-old had just done the second thing in front of 12 men in a market full of witnesses. The correct response, the response every version of his instinct was screaming, was to end this conversation immediately and let consequences follow later, quietly, efficiently. He looked at Zara. Zara looked back at him. She hadn't blinked. She hadn't shifted her weight. She was standing the way soldiers stand when they've already decided they're not retreating. "Move," he said quietly. To the child, which was already a mistake, and he knew it. "No," Zara said. Behind her, Alozie had gone completely still, not from fear, but from the particular tension of a mother, calculating exactly how fast she could get her body in front of her daughters if this went wrong. "Zara," she said softly. "Baby?" "I heard what he said, Mom." Zara didn't turn around. Her eyes stayed on Han Seo. "He said your stall won't exist. That means he's going to take our home." A beat. "I'm not moving." Dwan, Han Seo's second, leaned close and murmured, "Boss, people are watching." Han Seo knew. He could feel every eye in the market on his back like heat. He crouched down slowly to Zara's level. This was tactical. Get eye contact. Establish dominance. Make the child understand the size of the mistake. Zara watched him come down to her level with the expression of someone who had been expecting this exact move. "Little girl," he said, "I respect your bravery, but you don't know who you're talking to." "Han Seo," Zara said immediately. "You control 6 districts. Your organization has been buying this market for 8 months. You've never lost a negotiation." She tilted her head. "Until today." The silence that followed was enormous. Dwan made a sound. He covered it with his hand. Han Seo stared at this child. This 7-year-old who had just recited his portfolio like a business analyst. He stood up slowly. 2 weeks, he said to Alozie, and walked away. But his hands at his sides were not entirely steady. He came back the next morning, not with cars, not with men. Just Han Seo, a black jacket, and an expression that suggested he had argued with himself about this decision the entire drive over. Alozie saw him coming and picked up her ladle like a weapon. He stopped at the counter. "I want to eat," he said. She stared at him. "You want to eat?" "Your jollof rice." He said it like it cost him something to admit. "I smelled it yesterday. I couldn't..." He stopped. "I want to eat." Alozie looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked past him to confirm he was alone. Then she looked at him again. "Sit down," she said finally. "Don't touch anything." He sat on the customer stool. Zara was already there, homework open, watching him over her glasses with the focused attention of a scientist observing an unpredictable specimen. "You came back," Zara said. "I came for food," Han Seo said. "You came back," Zara repeated calmly, like it was already filed. Alozie set a bowl in front of him. He looked at it, picked up the spoon, ate. The market watched from a safe distance. Nobody could understand what they were seeing. Han Seo, sitting at a small African food stall eating jollof rice while a 7-year-old girl supervised him from 3 feet away. He set the spoon down. "It's good," he said, like the words surprised him. "I know," Alozie said, not looking up. Zara leaned forward. "Why do you want our stall?" Han Seo looked at her. "Business." What kind of business needs to erase somebody else's kitchen? He didn't answer. Zara nodded slowly, like the silence was an answer. You don't actually know, do you? Someone told you to acquire it, and you just... She made a gesture, went along. I make my own decisions, Han Seo said. Then make a better one, Zara said simply, and went back to her homework. Alozie, behind the stall, pressed her lips together very hard and said absolutely nothing. He came back on the third day, and the fourth. By the fifth day, Zara had stopped looking up when he arrived. She simply moved her bag off the second stool without being asked. That evening, the market was quieter. A light rain was coming down, the kind that makes everything smell like wet concrete in memory. Most vendors had packed up early. Alozie was closing the stall. Han Seo was still sitting. You should go, Alozie said. I know, he said. He didn't move. She looked at him. Really looked. The way she hadn't allowed herself to before. He looked tired. Not physically, the other kind. The kind that lives behind the eyes of people who have been performing a version of themselves for so long, they've forgotten there's another one. Why do you keep coming here? She asked. He was quiet for a moment. My mother used to cook, he said. Not like this. Korean food, but the smell? He stopped. She died when I was 9. I haven't smelled a kitchen that felt like something since then. Alozie went very still. I built everything after that, he continued. Everything. Because there was nothing to come home to, so I made myself into something nobody would ever threaten. He looked at his hands. It worked. Did it? Alozie asked quietly, looked up, their eyes met. That locked door feeling and something pressing from the other side with no name. Your daughter, he said. She's not afraid of anything. She's afraid of one thing, Alozie said. What? Alozie looked at Zara asleep on the stool, cheek on her textbook. Losing me, she said softly. She just decided a long time ago that fear wasn't going to stop her from fighting for it. Han Seo looked at the sleeping child. Something behind his eyes shifted. Something old. Something that had been waiting a very long time for exactly this image. A child who fought for her parent. To crack him open. If someone out there is fighting alone for the people they love, drop A in the comments. This story is for you. It became a routine nobody planned. Han Seo arrived at noon. Zara moved her bag. Alozie set a bowl down without being asked. They ate, or rather he ate, and Zara talked. And Alozie pretended not to listen while listening to everything. Zara talked the way water moves. Constantly, naturally, like silence was optional. She told Han Seo about her school, about a girl named Minji who had said Zara's lunchbox smelled weird until Zara gave her one bite of jollof rice and Minji had apologized, asked for the recipe, and was now Zara's closest friend. You converted her, Han Seo said. People just need to taste the truth, Zara said seriously. The corner of his mouth moved. Alozie saw it from behind the stall. She filed it away. One afternoon, Zara pulled out a drawing. She placed it on the counter in front of Han Seo without explanation. He looked at it. 3 figures, tall, medium, small, standing in front of a stall. Underneath, in careful block letters, us. Han Seo looked at the drawing for a long time. Who's the tall one? He asked. Zara looked at him over her glasses. Who do you think? He didn't answer, but something shifted in his chest. Quiet, seismic, irreversible. That evening, as he was leaving, Alozie stopped him. Han Seo. He turned. She was looking at him with fire behind the caution. Whatever this is, she said carefully, Zara is not a toy. She attaches. If you're going to disappear, disappear now. He held her gaze. I'm not going anywhere, he said. It was the most honest thing he had said in years. He could feel it in the way it left his chest. light like something put down after a very long carry. Alozie looked at him one more moment. Then she turned back to her pot. But her shoulders had dropped, just slightly. The way shoulders drop when a person has decided, against every sensible instinct, to believe someone. It came on a Tuesday, fast and ugly the way real things break. A video. Someone in the market had filmed Zara's confrontation with Han Seo. The first day, her standing between him and Alozie, saying, "Try it." It had been edited, captioned, posted. By Tuesday morning, it had 500,000 views and a headline that read, "Korean Mafia King, humiliated by African, child in Seoul market." Han Seo's organization was in crisis mode by 8 a.m. His board, his rivals. 3 calls from people who used words like image and weakness and liability. And underneath all of it, one cold, clear message from the one man Han Seo had never been able to fully defy. His father's oldest partner, Chairman Wu, who had helped build the organization from nothing and never let Han Seo forget it. End it. Remove the stall. Restore the optics. Today, Han Seo arrived at the market at noon. No jacket this time. Face closed, eyes cold in a way Alozie hadn't seen in 2 weeks. She knew immediately. "Say it," she said quietly. "You need to take the contract," he said. "The original terms. I'll make sure you're relocated." Relocated. Her voice was flat. "It's a fair..." "Don't." She set the ladle down. The clang was sharp. "Don't stand in front of me and use the word fair." Zara had gone completely still on her stool. "I have people I answer to," Han Seo said. His voice was tight, controlled. "This isn't personal." "It is entirely personal," Alozie said. "You sat at my stall for 2 weeks. You ate my food. My daughter drew you into our family." Her voice cracked on the last word, just once, just slightly. "And now, because of a video, you're standing here choosing them over us." "Alozie..." "Go," she said. He stood there for one more moment. Then he left. Zara watched him go. She didn't cry. She just picked up her drawing of 3 people and folded it slowly, carefully, and put it in her bag. That was worse than crying. That night, Han Seo sat alone in his office for 4 hours. His phone had 17 messages. He hadn't opened one. On his desk was a copy of the original contract. Alozie's corrections still marked in red pen, her handwriting firm and precise. Bad terms. Resubmit with fair lease option. A.O. He stared at it. He thought about his mother's kitchen, about the smell of something cooking that means someone is home, about a 9-year-old boy who built walls because there was nothing left to protect. He thought about Zara folding that drawing. He picked up the phone, not to call Chairman Wu. He called his own lawyer. "I need a new document," he said. "Tonight. Stall 7, Mangwon Market. Permanent lease, her name on it. Market rate locked for 20 years. Non-transferable, non-revocable." He paused. "And I need you to find a way to make it legally untouchable by anyone in my organization, including me." Silence on the other end. "Sir, Chairman Wu will..." "I know what he'll do," Han Seo said. "Draw up the document." He hung up. Then he sat there in the quiet office and did something he hadn't done since he was 9 years old. He let himself want something that had nothing to do with power. He wanted to go back to that stall. He wanted to sit on that stool. He wanted to hear Zara say something devastatingly accurate about his character, while Alozie pretended not to smile behind her pot. He wanted to be in a kitchen that felt like something again. He stood up, put on his jacket, picked up the document his lawyer had sent to his phone in record time, and drove to Mangwon Market at midnight. The market was empty and dark except for one light. Stall 7. Alozie was still there, cleaning up slowly the way people clean when they're not ready to go home to a quiet house and their own thoughts. Zara was asleep on the stool, wrapped in Alozie's spare apron, cheek on her folded arms. Han Seo stopped at the entrance of the stall. Alozie heard him. She didn't turn around immediately. She kept wiping the counter. Then she stopped. "I'm not taking the original contract," she said, still not turning. "I know." He stepped forward, set the document on the counter in front of her. "Read it." She turned, looked at the paper, picked it up, read it slowly. Her eyes moved through it once, then again. She looked up. "This gives me the stall permanently." "Yes." "Your organization can't touch it." "Correct." "Han Seo?" Her voice was careful. "What did this cost you?" He looked at her. "Something I should have let go a long time ago." A pause. "Chairman Wu will make things difficult for a while. I can handle difficult." Alozie stared at him. The fire behind the caution, still there. But something else underneath it now. Something that had been quietly building for 2 weeks of noon meals and Zara's commentary and a kitchen that smelled like home. "Why?" she asked. Just that. He looked at Zara sleeping on the stool. At this small person who had stepped in front of a Mafia king and said, "Try it," without her hands shaking once. "Because she drew me into your family," he said quietly, "before I even knew I wanted to be there." Alozie looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached under the counter and set a bowl down in front of him. Jollof rice, still warm. "Sit down," she said. "It's midnight." "The food doesn't care," she said, and the corner of her mouth moved. He sat down. They stayed like that. Han Seo eating, Alozie beside him, Zara sleeping between them, in the quiet, empty market with one light on, and the city moving distantly around them, like it had nothing to do with any of this. After a while, Zara stirred, blinked, looked up at Han Seo with sleepy, unsurprised eyes. "You came back," she said. "I came back," he confirmed. She studied him for 3 full seconds. Then she unfolded herself, climbed into the space beside him, and leaned against his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Good," she said, and closed her eyes again. Han Seo looked down at this child pressed against his arm, then at Alozie. Alozie was looking back at him. That door between them open now, both of them standing at it, neither one afraid of what was on the other side. If this story reminded you that love sometimes walks in the door you least expected and stays, tell us in the comments. What would you have done in Alozie's place? Would you have let him back in? "Thank you," he said. "Not for the food." "Don't make me regret it," she said. Not a warning, a beginning. Outside, Seoul hummed on. And inside stall 7, something that had been broken, in all 3 of them, quietly, completely found its shape. If Zara's courage, Alozie's fire, and Han Seo's choice moved something in you today, subscribe and hit the bell. Because there are more stories here that will find you exactly when you need them. We'll see you in the next one.